Hey everybody, my name is Tommy Casabona, host of the Always Be Booked Cruise Podcast. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to run through some cruise news as we all sit here and wait for the world to start getting back to normal. I hope you guys are healthy and staying safe as we navigate through whatever the hell this is. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the Always Be Booked YouTube channel. And while you're there, hit that little bell so you can get notified anytime I post a new video. Alright, let's get into it. As we know, this is a completely unprecedented time for the cruise industry, so cruise lines are finding themselves in a position to have to get really creative in terms of establishing positions of liquidity. Despite cruise lines preparing to head back out to sea, at this point none of them have, and until they do, there's going to be significant uncertainty. In order to give themselves the ability to stay afloat, each cruise line is taking measures to secure funds by any means necessary. Let's start with Carnival. The world's largest cruise line and largest cruise corporation for that matter has been able to secure $6.4 billion in liquidity, thus enabling them to withstand not being able to sail through the remainder of 2020. This is not to suggest that a shutdown lasting through the end of the year wouldn't be a total disaster, but in the event of such a worst case scenario, Carnival Cruise Line would be able to survive. Now, how does a cruise line raise a quick $6.4 billion? Carnival was able to get these funds through a mix of borrowing, selling bonds, and selling common shares of equity. So for starters, Carnival released $1.25 billion in common shares of stock. These are shares that you or anyone you know can buy. $1.75 billion of it came from convertible notes. These are funds that Carnival borrows that are secured with equity and assets in the company. So the lenders usually require less interest because this type of loan is secure and therefore significantly lower in risk. Carnival also struck a deal with the investment arm of the Saudi Arabian government. Apparently, they were interested in Carnival as a possible investment for quite some time, but when the embattled cruise line's shares dipped into the single digits, it became a deal that was just too good to pass up. Reports are that the Saudis paid a whopping $369.4 million for 43.5 million shares, thus making them 8.2% shareholders overall in the company. So let's take it over to Norwegian. Now, NCL caused quite a stir when a few misinterpreted news stories came out suggesting that bankruptcy was not only a possibility, but maybe even imminent. That initial report turned out to be slightly exaggerated, and within 24 hours, Norwegian made a few strong moves to secure themselves from a cash flow standpoint through the end of the year as well. Norwegian announced that they received a $400 million loan from the private equity firm L. Catterton. This is a secured loan, and the company's assets are being used as collateral. As a part of this agreement, the firm will get the opportunity to also appoint an executive to the Norwegian's board of directors. The cruise line also put out $400 million of common stock, which will be managed by some of the larger firms in the world. They also got $750 million in exchangeable senior notes offering and another $675 million senior secured notes offering from existing creditors, which is just really fancy talk for, hey, listen, we know you're broke, you don't have to pay us just yet, but you will eventually. Royal Caribbean is establishing some extra liquidity by offering $3.3 billion in senior secured notes or bonds offered to investors that are backed by the company's assets in exchange for immediate cash. These are a series of secured notes that will each be due at different times between the years 2023 and 2025. Now, a good portion of this cash is already gone, as it's going to be used to pay for a loan that Royal Caribbean took out from Morgan Stanley earlier this year. Okay, let's get into some unfortunate news about the layoffs, furloughs, pay cuts, and other downsizing measures that are being taken to make it possible for cruise lines to survive this mess. We're going to start with Carnival, and the cruise line has announced a series of cost-cutting measures that will affect 1,300 employees across various different departments. In total, 820 positions will be eliminated, and 537 employees will have to be temporarily furloughed, and at this time, there is no indication as to when they will be able to come back. Now, these numbers represent a whopping 45% of their entire staff. These occupational casualties took place mostly on board and in Florida, but also reached as far as their offices in California and Washington State. In a statement, the company said, While these moves will contribute hundreds of millions of dollars in cash conservation on an annualized basis, we are saddened by these decisions and are sorry that we must take these actions. Our employees are the foundation of what our company is, and it's unfortunate that many talented people are being impacted through no fault of their own. As of yesterday, Royal Caribbean had to lay off 521 total jobs in their Miami offices. This came as no surprise since they had announced that it was coming last week, but the moves weren't made official up until this point. Some staff are still on the clock right now, but the layoffs will be completed by July 1st. Norwegian was the first to get in on the act when back at the end of April, they announced furloughs for upwards of 20% of their entire staff. This was a move that spread across its three major brands, including Norwegian Cruise Line, Oceania Cruises, and Regent Seven Seas. In a company email, Norwegian CEO Frank Del Rio said, "As voyage suspensions continue to extend, we are left with little choice but to make additional difficult decisions regarding our current state of operations and the resource needed to support it in order to ensure our business is well positioned when sailings resume." So this begs the question that everybody really wants an answer to. When will cruise lines return to service? Now, we don't know, but let's start with Carnival here. Carnival is the first to announce that it has every intention to return to service on a limited schedule on August 1st. This announcement takes a different tone than the previous two updates where the cruise lines seem to just keep putting off their return to sail date every 30 days. This time, they seem to have detailed an actionable plan that might make this a reality. Under the plan, Carnival will sail only 8 of the cruise line's 27 ships, which will be the Carnival Breeze and Elation out of Port Canaveral, the Horizon, Magic, and Sensation out of Miami, and the Carnival Dream, the Freedom, and the Vista out of Galveston, Texas. The goal is to have most of the rest of the fleet back in service by September. Now, we do know that it won't be a full return since itineraries out of places like New York, Alaska, and San Francisco have already been canceled through the remainder of the year. Transitioning over to Norwegian, they say they are going to relaunch 5 ships at a time, and they estimate that it'll be between 5 and 6 months before the entire fleet is back up and running. CEO Frank Del Rio announced a phase-in approach to getting things back to normal across each of their 3 brands, but not too many details have been given out as of yet. On a first quarter earnings call the other day, Del Rio spoke about the elephant in the room, which is obviously, when will Norwegian cruise again? He said, "Nothing will be more critical to resuming sustained and profitable long-term operations than making cruising the safest option in the travel and leisure space and providing cruisers with peace of mind." Beyond this, Norwegian has made no alterations to their plan to suspend all cruises through at least July 24th. In a press conference, Royal Caribbean did say that one of the post-COVID era safety and health changes that are being planned will include the elimination of the traditional buffet. You know what that means. No more Windjammer. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. I want to thank you for watching. Please don't forget to check out the Always Be Booked Cruise podcast anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and that notification bell. This way you know every time we upload a new episode. Thanks again, guys. Boat drinks.